The 13th Legion of Space Marines was assigned to Guilliman in short order, for the Primarch needed little urging or aid in the assimilation of knowledge of the wider galaxy, the Great Crusade, and the many technological wonders of the newborn Imperium of Man. It was a development greeted by the 13th Legion with great rejoicing and pride in the honor that Roboute Guilliman paid them in accepting their fealty. The oratory and vision with which their new-found Primarch expounded to them his designs for the future and the righteousness of the Great Crusade filled the Legiones Astartes with a renewed vigor and dispelled any shadows of doubt in their minds, and made Guilliman's takeover, according to official records, all but seamless. He did far more than merely take command. He set about transforming it. His vision was for a legion that was more than simply one army among many, however exceptional, but a self-sustaining power for conquest, order, and expansion. The strength of the body and blood of the Imperium made manifest by the will of the Emperor through his servant. To him, a military force was more than the warriors who wielded arms. It was their chain of supply, the starships which carried them between worlds, the manufactoria which supplied their munitions, and the worlds which bred their recruits. They were indivisible and equally vital. To his mind, all of these things made a Space Marine Legion, and he meant to control them all so that his own would prosper and the Emperor's will be done. In accordance with his grand design, he planned to not merely take the world of his fosterage as his headquarters and recruiting ground as his peers had done and would continue to do, but from the start set it up as merely the fulcrum of a far larger network of provender and support. The basis of this network would be the worlds Macridge had long maintained links with, but they would merely be its first components, not its fullest extent. This would be the start of Roboute Guilliman's realm of Ultramar, and it would be a project of solar decades in the making, and continue to expand right up to the first treacherous blow of the Horus Heresy. As swiftly as he put his plans for the creation of the realm of Ultramar into action, Roboute embarked on the root and branch reorganization of his legion, adopting an extraordinarily detailed plan which drew from both the military doctrines and political philosophies of his surrogate homeworld of Macridge, a detailed study of the history of the 13th Legion and every other legion and armed force under the Emperor's banner in their then current form. He remade the organizational structure and tactical doctrines of his legion accordingly. The result was an elegantly structured but elaborate and highly meritocratic force. It unsurprisingly built on much that had already been evident in the character of the 13th, as their Primarch's gene seed had already partly shaped them, however unconsciously, and through the application of analysis and reason, sought to purge any weaknesses or deficiencies to achieve the optimal military outcome. This, as with so much of the Legion's affairs, was considered by the Primarch an ongoing project, and it evolved quickly into dual doctrine, which embraced in parallel on one hand what were the ancient and deterministic values of the warrior, courage, discipline, skill, and adaptability defined as that which was practical, and on the other, planning, precedent, analysis, and assessment defined as that which was theoretical. Both were of equal weight and value, one complementing and informing the other, blending together as the metals which made a fine blade. This became the Legion's doctrine and creed. As with the society Roboute Guilliman had built on Macridge, the 13th Legion under his mastery would be as ruthlessly even-handed as it was efficient, with the needs of the individual sublimated to the greater whole, but the life of the individual never spent wantonly or without purpose, for Guilliman's doctrine stated that each legionary lost weakened those who remained. Within the Legion, the valor and the achievement of the individual were rewarded with honor and greater responsibility, but the obedience to hierarchy and order it demanded of its members was to be unquestioning and unchallenged. The outward signs of this transformation were striking. The livery of the 13th Legion was also altered to a deep blue, chased with gold, while the symbol of the ancient Ultima glyph found in the pre-isolation stellar charts of the Ultramar region was adopted as its icon and seal to tie them to the newfound realm which they embodied. And with the new cognomen Ultramarines, perhaps as one work attributed to Remembrancer El Amphidal suggested, quote, Roboute Guilliman and his legion would vow to take the Great Crusade beyond the stars themselves, if needed, to see its completion. With its forward base relocated to Macridge, Roboute was granted an independent Crusade command for the region by the Emperor, and quickly set about a series of fresh conquests. His 12th Expeditionary Fleet reformed under his command and was supplied with warships of the latest designs from Mars as a boon of the Emperor. Fresh conquests were immediate, as the newly named Ultramarines rapidly expanded their range out from Macridge, identifying suitable targets for Imperial compliance and singling out hostile Xenos holds for eradication. Interrupted only when called upon to join larger campaigns by the will of the Emperor, for nearly a Terran century, the 12th Expeditionary Fleet ranged as far to the galactic north as the dead expanse where the Dominion of Storms ended, and as far to the galactic east and south as the point of Ultima Thule, where the stars paled and emptied out into the limitless darkness of the exogalactic void. During this period, the Ultramarines, by some records, succeeded in liberating more human-settled worlds than any other single Primarch's forces, and the planets Roboute Guilliman brought within the Imperium always benefited from his intense passion for efficient and ordered government. Whenever he and the Ultramarines made a new world compliant, his forces spent as much effort in establishing it afresh, setting up self-supporting defenses, and ensuring that in his wake, the agents of the Imperial truth and industry would firmly seal the world's place in the fabric of the Imperium. This spread of cohesive Imperial civilization in the Legion's path served both to solidify and expand supply lines for its advance, facilitating in no small part the great speed and range of the Ultramarines' conquests. As inexorably as its tally of victories multiplied, the Ultramarine Legion's numbers also began to grow. Even before its reunification with its Primarch, the 13th Legion had been mindful of its losses and demonstrated its ability to expand steadily thanks to the resilience of its gene seed during multi-generational rapid replication. But with its Primarch's vision to guide it, his organizational skill and his own genetic material now available to further strengthen and enhance the fidelity and purity of the Legion's gene stocks, the resultant expansion was meteoric, perhaps beyond anyone's, even the Emperor's, expectations. Within solar months of the Legion's establishment on Macridge, the first influx of new recruits had arrived at the fortress of Hera, the Legion's fortress monastery and new headquarters, and the process of renewal and increase in the 13th Legion's fighting strength had begun, and never since had ceased. Wave after wave of recruits were taken in and processed, not simply from Macridge and the surrounding worlds of the slowly expanding Ultramar, as numerous as they were, but from scores of worlds and colony outposts where the conquering fleets of Roboute Guilliman had gone. The process was meritocratic and exacting. Only the strongest and most able candidates were selected, chosen for both desired physical and mental attributes. But the net was flung so wide that the initiate intake dwarfed that of any other single legion. This, coupled with the Ultramarines' resistance to what they saw as the waste of attrition warfare, created a kind of amplification effect in practice, where the larger the Legion used in a single compliance action, the more force was brought to bear and the fewer the casualties taken. Where this was not the case, and there remained many hard battles fought by them against hideously powerful foes such as savage Orc empires, the Tanaril, and other nightmarish xenoforms, and heavy losses were inevitably suffered, the Legion's sheer size and its huge capacity to renew itself with more recruits offered it formidable resilience, and such losses were almost invariably replaced within a few Terran years. By the time Horus was appointed War Master over all the Space Marine legions and other Imperial military forces at the Triumph of Olenor, the Ultramarines were, by any official assessment, the largest single Space Marine legion by number of legionaries, with a considerable margin. Owing to this expansion, the now massive 12th Expeditionary Fleet was subdivided into a score of smaller expeditionary and persecution fleets, allowing the Legion to range further, each still numbering scores of vessels and thousands and sometimes tens of thousands of legionaries. The numeric strength of the Ultramarines Legion, in excess of 250,000 Astartes before the Istvan III atrocity, would be an achievement that would not be surpassed, though in secrecy, the late expansion of the traitorous Word-bearers, who originally numbered approximately 100,000 Astartes, would come to rival them by some assessments, while the wilder claims as to the strength of the Alpha Legion also have them run closer to the Ultramarines' strength than official records would indicate. This scale of military force and the near autonomous empire within an empire that maintained it, as Ultramar had reached a size popularly ascribed as the 500 worlds before the outbreak of the Galactic Civil War, would have dire and unforeseen consequences for the Ultramarines and their Primarch. Separate and inviolate in the east, and a great power within their own right, the Legion's very existence made them a threat to the traitors' conspiracy that could not be ignored. And on Calth, with the War Master's plan and the Word Bearer's desire for revenge, seek to see that threat destroyed.